All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas, and uh, we are going to do video 110 today on the reciprocal system of theory. This is a theory of everything that was first proposed by Dewey B. Larson back in the 20th century. Came out with his initial postulates back in the 1950s. And from then on, he was writing books, wrote a dozen or more books, plus uh, many, many articles over the next 35, 40 years until he died in 1990. We are looking at his final book that came out after he died called Beyond Space and Time. And this is his effort to go into metaphysics, religion and philosophy and psychology, and whereas all of his earlier books were on chemistry and physics. A couple of books on economics, astronomy. The idea behind the reciprocal system is that we have a universe of motion. Motion is the common denominator and the most fundamental thing in the universe. Everything is motion. Larson, at one time before he started calling it motion, he did call it space-time. And toward the end, he actually just called it change in 3 dimensions. Because for him, Larson, motion was the relationship between space and time. And space and time are reciprocals of each other, hence the reciprocal system of theory. So whatever quality adhered to one adhered to the other as well. We know space to be 3 or more dimensions, so that therefore time is also 3 or more dimensions. We also know that time is flowing or progressing or always getting later and later. Space, therefore, is also flowing and progressing, getting later and later. He called that clock space. And that was seen by the Hubble telescope in the recession of the distant galaxies. Now, in a universe of motion, if you just do like a little thought experiment, you say you're trying to meditate and you get down to your most deepest stillness, utter complete stillness. And that stillness that you feel is actually the speed of light moving in all directions. So even when what you feel to be as complete stillness is actually motion. And so where in Einstein's system, the speed of light is the maximum speed of the universe. In Larson's system, the speed of light is the midpoint or the null point or even the origin of this universe. And there's an entire half of the universe that's moving faster than the speed of light, which Larson calls the cosmic sector, or sector 2. In contrast with the material sector, or sector 1, which is the familiar universe that we know to be moving slower than the speed of light. And this familiar universe that we know is growing by aggregation until it reaches its most complex level, which is DNA, containing a couple billion of atoms per molecule. At that level, the DNA molecule is eligible to be controlled by a unit from sector 2, and that combination of a sector 1 and sector 2 entity is what Larson calls the life unit. Life is a combination of material and cosmic. That life unit starts out as just a single-celled organism, like an amoeba or virus. I don't really know about the cells of virus, but Larson does mention that viruses are right at the borderline there. And this single-celled organism grows and evolves over time up into its most complex level, which Larson says is the intelligent human being, and possibly other extraterrestrials of that level. And at that point, the intelligent human being is able to be controlled by an entity from Sector 3. And this Sector 3, I would point that as that origin at speed of light. Now, Larson says that there is a discrete unit postulate. So both space and time only come in discrete units. There is no third of a unit or 0.2 units or anything like that. There's only one, and then there's two, and then there's three, and then there's four, and so on, of both space and time. And 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time is the speed of light. So the speed of light is just 1. 1 over 1 equals 1. And this 1 is what I would propose to be Sector 3. For Larson, Sector 3 is always good and communicating with humans and communicating accurate and correct information to humans through such channels as ESP, intuition, religious revelation, scientific insight. But since humans are basically analogous to the spiritual single-celled organisms, their ability to interpret these messages is very limited at this point, and especially the most complicated messages. And so we typically get the message wrong that comes to us through Sector 3. But we can improve our performance over time through preparation and concentration and other practices to help us, and just practice overall, to help us learn how to interpret these messages that we're getting from Sector 3. So for other people, Sector 3 would have been called God or goddesses or gods or spiritual or numinous or metaphysical, beyond space and time. Larson called it Sector 3. So that's where we're at, and we are toward the end of his final book, Beyond Space and Time, which, as you may guess, is on these metaphysical issues. And he's talking here in this second to last chapter about survival, meaning the survival of the soul. What happens to us after we die, and what is the outlook for survival according to the reciprocal system. Okay, and he had just got done talking about there's no single article of the traditional Christian faith less confidently affirmed today than this about immortality, and none so generally neglected or doubted. The growth of this spirit of skepticism in recent years has been largely a byproduct of the increasing impact of science on human thought and the corresponding weakening of religious influence. Within the confines of orthodox scientific thinking, there is no room for the concept of an existence outside the boundaries of the physical universe. Everything that happens in it, the universe as a whole, during the course of an evolution which never ceases, is the result of purely physical laws. The scientific materialist contends. He ridicules the idea of survival after physical death. Only feeble souls harbor such thoughts, says Einstein. The atmosphere of omniscience generated by many spectacular triumphs that now surrounds physical science makes it difficult for the ordinary individual to take issue with this dictum, particularly when the principal opposition is not prepared to offer anything more than some unsupported assertions that he is told that he must accept on faith. In reality, however, the orthodox science scientist is likewise asking that his conclusions be accepted on faith. He does not know that everything which happens in the universe is the result of purely physical laws. There are immense and significant gaps in his knowledge, and he has no assurance that these gaps will ever be filled. He believes that this can be done, and on the strength of that belief, he is asking, often demanding, that his opinion be accorded the status of an established fact. He does not know that the boundaries of the physical universe that he is exploring encompass the whole of reality. He is merely assuming, first, that whatever cannot be brought within the scope of science does not exist, and second, that since science has not thus far been able to detect anything outside the physical universe, there cannot be any such thing. Here again, he is asking that these assumptions, far-fetched as they are, be accepted purely on faith as the equivalent of facts. Okay, that is what Larson's talking about there. That scientism is just another religion, and that is something that is not brought up very often. Okay, if we look at the survival question from a logical standpoint without being influenced either by the current prestige of science or the emotional impact of religious beliefs, it is obvious that the conventional scientific assertions on this subject are completely without factual support. The scientists are merely advancing an opinion based on a belief as to what future discoveries will and will not reveal. Such assertions are no more than speculative. They cannot legitimately claim to be soundly based or even to be scientific. The results of this present study, which show that the current scientific opinion with respect to the survival issue is completely erroneous, should therefore be no occasion for surprise. In the preceding pages, we have developed a factual basis for a genuinely scientific consideration of the survival question, and the objective of this chapter will be to present the conclusions that can be derived from these factual premises. It is clear, both theoretically and from observation, that the material structure of the biological organism cannot survive for any extended period after death. Loss of control by the life unit does not necessarily result in immediate destruction of the material structure, but this structure is one which has been developed by means of processes that act in opposition to the laws of the inanimate sector, particularly the second law of thermodynamics. And as soon as the control by the life unit is relaxed, the inanimate processes become effective and they begin to destroy the organism. Neither can the life unit itself, the electrical structure, we may call it somewhat loosely, survive after severing its ties with the material structure. Although not material, the life unit is nevertheless a physical entity, and it exists wholly within the physical universe. Furthermore, it is a type of structure that can exist in the material sector only if it is associated with a material structure. As an independent body composed of cosmic units would not be localized in space. Hence, death, the process in which the association between the life unit and the material structure of the organism is severed, terminates the existence of both of these level 2 components. At level 3, now level 3 is an individual who is under the influence of sector 3. At level 3, the situation is different. The control unit, the sector 3 aspect of the human individual, is not a physical structure. It is neither material nor cosmic. It exists in association with the biological structure, but not in the physical universe, in much the same manner that a point X lying on a line AB may also have an existence on another line, CD, because these lines intersect at X. If the line CD is erased, this does not mean that point X disappears. It still remains as an element of the intact line AB. Similarly, the control unit, which is inherently a sector 3 structure, remains intact in sector 3 in existence as a whole, even though the biological organism with which it was associated is erased. That is, its existence is terminated. A physical process can operate to destroy the association between a sector 3 structure and a physical structure, but it cannot destroy the sector 3 structure inasmuch as physical processes exist only within the physical sectors of the universe. As already brought out in the earlier discussions, we may conclude, on the basis of the foregoing considerations, that survival is a certainty. It is evident, however, that the nature of this survival is considerably different from anything that has been visualized heretofore. In fact, we must redefine the word survival if it is to be applicable at all. Ordinarily, this word signifies continuation into a later time interval. But in this case, the surviving structure does not exist in time at all. It is independent of both time and space. When we say that the sector 3 structure survives the death of the biological organism, what we mean is that death does not terminate the existence of the sector 3 structure. We can be sure that nothing physical survives. The resurrection of the body that is envisioned in the doctrines of some religions is simply impossible if these words are to be interpreted literally. Whatever validity such doctrines may possess can only be in a figurative or allegorical sense. But the fact that nothing physical is present in the surviving structure has still further implications. All physical processes are terminated. This means that the biological law of the jungle, the pattern of behavior that we call evil, in those respects in which it is contrary to the ethical code, and all aspects of the human personality that are associated with the purely biological behavior expire with the physical structure. Whatever truth there may be in Shakespeare's contention that the evil men do lives after them, the evil men do lives after them. The good is oft inferred. It says interred. I'm not sure. I guess it is interred. The good is often interred with their bones, is limited to the physical universe. In application to existence as a whole, the reverse is true. Evil does not survive in any form. As brought out in Chapter 7, the dividing line between level 2 and level 3 is not between animal and man, but between man and ethical man. Early man, who lived and behaved as an animal, was purely a biological organism. As we look back into human beginnings, says one commentator, we discover at once that man began as an unmoral savage. Back to Larson, his existence, like that of any other animal, terminated with the dissolution of his physical structure. Not until a control unit from Sector 3 entered into a combination with the physical organism was there anything in the human structure that could survive. And when the end comes for the physical structure, it is this control unit, the Sector 3 structure, that survives, not because it is good and deserves to survive, but because it is inherently indestructible, physically at least. These scientific findings are in conflict with many religious teachings which call for posthumous punishment for the evildoer. Where only the good survives, there is no place for punishment. It is evident that this is one of the places where an element of anthropomorphism has entered into religion. Rewards and punishments are normal features of human life, and it is only natural that man should expect them to be part of any post-human existence as well, particularly if, as the religious teachings assert, existence as a whole is governed by a just and powerful deity. Obviously, the scales are not balanced during life on earth. All too often, the wicked prosper while good goes unrewarded. And it has seemed quite logical that the demands of justice must be satisfied by appropriate measures in the hereafter. It is only a short step from a strong conviction that something ought to be true to a belief that it is true, and it is therefore quite easy to see how the idea of punishment for evil doing would make its way into religious doctrine. Okay, I think we will stop right there. I will just say yes. The anthropomorphism um, that I hear coming from the religious is I put it does say in the Bible that we were created in God's image. Unfortunately, that is referring to a God with a small g, and the God with a big G only lasted for the first um, chapter of Genesis, and then I don't even think got through the first chapter, um, and then was replaced by this other God, and maybe the Anunnaki or whatever. All right, have a great day. We'll talk to you later.